It is 7 PM. If we can go ahead and call this meeting to order, if we can all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doing roll call, all 5 council members are present. Do we have any public comment tonight? If so, you're welcome to come up to the podium and say your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Keith Kohler, 702 Marion Street, Southwest. And I typed mine all up just so, because I know I'm limited time here. I don't want to be here tonight, but I've exhausted all other methods to resolve this issue. My issue is I have an ash tree with emerald ash borer in my boulevard that the city planted. My process that led me here tonight is I first sent a request in via the city's website to have the tree taken care of back in June of 2024 with no response. So I reached back out in February 23rd, 2025, and I got a response back finally from Matt Sylvester, the Public Services Director, stating per the city's ordinance, the city would not take care of the tree and it would be my responsibility. The city ordinance was 264. I didn't believe that was what I was being told was legal, so I reached out to Mayor Merrill in March 4th. We discussed the matter. Mayor Merrill said it made sense and he would look into it. March 10th, I received a text from Mayor Merrill stating that he had talked to the Public Service Director, City Administrator, and another council member, and they were unable to help me with the boulevard tree. That the city has 400 trees and it would be too big of an undertaking. Unsatisfied with the response I was getting from city staff and the mayor, I decided to do some investigating myself. First, I looked at state statute. 160.22 covers trees in the right-of-way for the state of Minnesota. There's stuff in there that contradicts the state or the city ordinance, but it was kind of a gray area. So next, I contacted the League of Minnesota Cities, which is the insurance for the city, and I asked their legal team if the ordinance was legal. They immediately said no, so I asked for proof in writing. Within minutes, they sent me multiple documents that either been emailed to or direct mailed to all cities covered by the League of Minnesota Cities. The first major thing that contradicted City Ordinance 264, in Section 3 of Ordinance 264, the city ordinance states, all trees, shrubs, and other plantings located within the public right-of-way shall be the responsibility of that owner. The league documentation contradicts this with the control and care for trees and public right-of-ways involves common law right-of-way principles. Landowners generally own all of the land up to the center of the street, however, or in front of their house, including trees, soils, and minerals, etc., unless acquired by the city. However, the city has easement rights in the public street. It comes with a duty of care for the city. This translates to, among other things, an obligation to maintain the trees in the right-of-way. Although the landowner may own the trees, the landowner does not have a legal obligation to take care of any trees in the easement. The league also stated, while the city can pass an ordinance requiring the landowner to maintain the trees in the right-of-way, that is the duty owed to the city, not the general public. Thus, the city would be held liable for injuries to third parties, property damage, or anything caused by these trees in the right-of-way. The second issue I had with the Ordinance 264 was Section 4, B and C, stating that the city council, I'll summarize it, can pretty much pick anybody to be their designated person to do tree inspections. And sections B and C state the authorized agent may enter upon private premises at any reasonable time for the purpose of carrying out any of the duties assigned to him or her under this chapter. No person, firm, or corporation shall interfere with the authorized agent or with anyone acting under the agent's authority while engaging activities authorized by this chapter. Later in Section 7, it says you can be charged with a misdemeanor. The league documentation contradicts this with, when working with or around trees on private property, cities can face claims of negligence in inspection, maintenance, and removal. It is an important step to first seek permission or a waiver from a landowner before doing anything on private property with trees or shrubs. In the absence of permission, the city must obtain a warrant, administrative warrant from the court that gives the city permission to enter the property for the limited purpose of tree care. So there's a lot of legal stuff there. If anybody didn't follow that, the city came and planted a tree in my boulevard. and they actually planted one on my private property too. That was ash also. Both of them would have got ash borer, but as soon as I heard it was in Anoka County, I took care of the one on my property. The one on the boulevard, I've made 2 requests, got zero response I was satisfied with, and I want the city to come take care of the tree that they planted in my right of way. I'm able-bodied, I can take the tree down if I had to, but now it's principle for me. And I'm more doing this because I have a neighbor that's disabled, the senior citizens. State there's 400 trees, I'm guessing maybe 1 or 2 per property, so you're looking at probably 300 residents that this is gonna affect, and it's gonna be a hardship for all of them. This is the city is responsible for all trees within the right-of-way, whether it wants a responsibility or not. Every other city is in the same boat, dealing with the same issues, but they're doing their job and taking care of the residents, not forcing them to handle the city's responsibilities and threatening them with misdemeanors that they don't. All in all, this is very poorly written ordinance, and it doesn't benefit the residents of Isani. It needs to be rewritten. 264.
Thank you. And I did look into that, and I was in agreement with you. I think that's something that, you know, we should look into. At the time, we had discussed this probably a year and a half ago. What was actually in there was significantly worse, and I had told you that, you know, the city at that point had the jurisdiction to go cut down a tree and then bill the residents for it without the residents' choice. So we thought we made it better at the time. And I'd be happy if you wanted to come in and talk to city staff or maybe get you on the agenda for, you know, a discussion on our ordinances.
I'm pretty busy with youth sports and my kids and stuff. I don't want to be here tonight, so I don't want to have to come back. So
Okay.
I'm trying to put another responsibility on you guys of ordinance 264.
Okay, and that's something our lawyer would want to look into, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think Mayor and Council, I think he brings up really great points. I think that this is something that we should, I can pull information from the league as well.
I have it
so-
all here too, if anybody wants it.
So we don't have to take more of his time, but I definitely, it sounds like we need to have this reviewed by the city attorney.
Yep. And I did try to exhaust all the options I had with the Public Works Director. We have the ordinance, and that's all I can do, unfortunately, so,
That's what the public service director stated too, but like I said, unsatisfied, so.
yep.
So that just for example, trying to think Maplewood over by me, the neighbor on the corner of the house, they planted 2 apple trees on the right of way between the sidewalk and the street. And they had gotten permission, you plant it, you take care of it, it's yours. Then somebody came back and told them they had to pull them out because that's why no trees are planted on the right of ways anymore. So unfortunately, that tree was probably planted,
1989, I think you had said.
yeah.
Yep.
The one thing that it definitely is something that we need to dive deeper into this is that trees in the right-of-way are different than diseased trees in the right-of-way or
Sure.
pest-ridden trees in the right-of-way, so make sure we vet all of those options out, just so we can be informed of all of those, because it'll affect this entire chapter, which is good, but just trees that are not infected, that aren't ash trees, we can look into that too, just so we have
From
it
what the league
comprehensive.
states, it doesn't matter,
Okay.
affected or not. I mean, it's your responsibility. That's what she said the biggest concern was, is the trees die, now they're shedding branches.
Right,
damaging
public
people,
safety issue.
down on the sidewalk, whatever else it could be. So I appreciate the time, and, I know a lot of cities, they're not only doing the removal, they're doing stump grinding and then offering, if a resident wants a tree in its place, they can get one. If not, that's fine, they don't want another tree in the right of way. So they serve a good purpose too, they just come with, come with a responsibility also. Thank you.
And bringing this to our attention because sometimes we don't always get it right, and it sounds like you did your research, and I'm glad you did. And yeah, we definitely will have to change that ordinance, or change the way we approach the trees on the boulevard.
Kind of like I mentioned to Mayor Merrill and then also to you, council too, is I have a neighbor with a disability. I gotta take care of my boulevard tree, now I have to take care of his boulevard tree too, and it gets to be, just taking care of the ones on your own property. I knew this was coming, so I planted trees on my property in anticipation of this one leaving. So I wouldn't be looking for replacement for it, but I'd be looking to get it removed as well.
Yep.
All right, sorry you had to go through all that.
Thanks for coming in. Is there anyone else with public comment? You're welcome to come up and state your name and address for the record. Hi, thank you for coming in.
Hi, Linda Wright, 719 North View Lane, Southwest. We hired a contractor, they came in and pulled their permits with you guys, that's fine. It's my understanding that if you pull a permit, then those permits go to Rum River, and that's where the inspections happen. It was a siding job, roofing job, electric, okay? Rum River, so nothing was ever inspected for electric, maybe it's not, okay? Then they closed it. The siding and the roofing, the Rum River came out one time at the very end, and that was it for inspections. Now, I have code violations on my house, in which should have been inspected and known beforehand, and they weren't. So I have vents that aren't venting, there's no cutouts, there's flashing, that's not there, but nothing was caught, because they didn't come out and do their inspections. So I have the copies of the inspections here. The contractors could care less, and so I've had to hire an attorney. I'm at 10 grand already, and tomorrow I'll have to have a full engineer, inspector, and everything else. They're gonna try to figure out what they did underneath. And I thought the whole point of having a permit was to have your inspections done properly. I've called the state, and that's how it's supposed to work. I've also called other counties, several in the state, that all say that it should have never even been closed, that why didn't the city look at inspection reports? But they didn't. And
We
they gave
hire
me the
Ru-
copies.
We hire Rum River for all that stuff, so that's really good to know, though.
Yeah, but that's not my problem. You guys are my problem. You guys hire Rum River, that's your problem. But my problem is that I've had to hire an attorney and go through all this stuff because my house didn't get inspected. So why are you even having people pull the permits if you're not making the inspections happen? Then they might as well not even have a permit.
That's a horrible spot to be in. Definitely understand that one. I don't know what we can do or what sort of, in our contract, what's written in with Rum River. Obviously, if they don't do their job, they have to be held responsible, I would think.
Yeah, we'll have to follow up with your specific permits, so I'll be reaching out to you.
Want them? They're right here.
I'll take them.
Or
and
do you
then
want
we'll-
them? I don't care who wants them.
I'll take them.
But they're all right there, and
Okay.
you can see that there's, that's it. And when the Rum River, I made sure that I was there, when they came out on the siding, and I said, you know, you can see like there's not flashing in that part, and what do you suggest? Their response to me was, you know, we're only here to make sure like the siding's up or the roof is up, we just make sure it's there. That's our only job. Now, I've talked to people that do county inspections for Isani, that's not right. They go out midpoint and inspect, or get a lot of pictures
Mm-hmm.
to make sure, you know, because one of the things, I have taken pictures while the process was happening, because I've got disabled kids, so that they could actually see what was going on. And you can look at my pictures and know that they did not tape, they did not put the house wrap on. There's multiple things that they didn't do right that you can see from my pictures on the ground. You know, when you go into my attic and you see vents that are cut out, you can see where the vent's supposed to be, you can see like a little bit cut out, but it's not cut out to code by any means or even close. Well, I can't put wood back in, so it obviously didn't come out.
Sure.
But those are big code things, and I guess it can get straightened out. Or I can go back to the state, because I prefer the state come out and do a whole audit on the whole system when it comes to permits, because I can't believe that my house would be the only one not getting inspections done.
Sure.
How long has your house been under construction for?
Can you go back to the podium, please, just so we have recording? Thank you.
Yeah, it started, in '23 is when they started. The end of '23, they did the, roof. Then they came in January of '24 and did the siding. This has been going on since then.
Okay.
And I tried everything to get that company to come back out and do this stuff, and they have not, and that's where we had to get a lawyer involved.
Was the same contractor the one that did the siding and roofing?
Yep. Same contractor. You know, the other thing is, I think for a roof, they charge a flat fee
Yep.
to get a permit. But for siding, it goes off of a scale, is my understanding.
Valuation.
Right, which I thought was interesting that it's not even a quarter of the price that our insurance was even paying, just so that that company would pay less to get their permit. Anyway, it's probably only a $50 difference, but if you do a whole lot of homes in Isani, that's a whole lot of money.
Right.
I've never heard of that contractor, so, but I don't know all of them either, but I'm not trying to make excuse for Rum River,
But they're.
but in my personal opinion, is that contractor should be held accountable for what he did, because a lot of roofing inspections, they don't come out and they look to make sure that the starter roll is on, shingles are in, and they're seated. That's what their inspection is. If they're not cutting the vents through the roof, unfortunately, the inspector's not gonna crawl up on a roof to see if those are
No,
cut through.
they're not, but what they do is they get a lot of project pictures.
Correct.
Before
Yep.
they
But-
want,
but-
no, they don't even necessarily have to be on the property, but they need a whole lot of pictures.
Yeah, well,
Before they can move
it's-
it forward to the next level. And, oh, yes, it is their fault.
You know,
Absolutely,
it's,
100%, but it's also the city's fault for closing it out like that.
So this is definitely something we'll have to look into. I'm not sure when Rum River took over and if that was,
It was in that fall it was in the August of 2023.
that's when Rum River took over for us?
Yes.
Okay, so it's Rum River the whole way? Okay.
Yes.
So it's either gonna come down to Rum River or the construction company. We would be happy to help you however we can with this. Obviously, I don't like to hear about this stuff, and we've had a lot of discussion on, you know, building inspection services, so this is a big deal to us too. So, I guess we could just be in constant communication and figure out what we can do to help. And, I guess I'm not sure what else to say or do, but,
Yeah, because I have contacted people with the city.
okay,
This isn't my first time, this is my last. I'm mad,
okay,
furious. And they told me to call some guy at Rum River who was in charge. Okay, so I did.
okay,
I called him and I emailed him, no response. Then I actually sat and thought about it more. Not my problem. I didn't hire Rum River to come in. You
Sure.
guys hired Rum River to come in and do your inspections,
okay.
so it's on you.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything on council about this issue in particular, so we can definitely, be your check and balance for you on this, and we'll figure something out.
That would be good.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for coming in. Any other public comment tonight? Okay, hearing none, we will go on to adopting the agenda. Are there any changes?
Mayor and council, I do want to make note that we did republish the packet when there was a revision made to the minutes from the last city council meeting. And there was a council members committee report that was not included that has been added.
Okay,
make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
motion by Councilmember Lundin, second from Councilmember Peterson to adopt the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We will move on to G1, March 4th, 2025 City Council meeting minutes. I did notice something on there for item number 11, at the top of page 9. Can we make sure to clarify that we will continue using the Facebook Live? If you look at the minutes in there, it doesn't say anything about continuing Facebook Live. It just says we will not upload to Facebook, and I think that's a little bit confusing. So if we could make that change.
Yes, we'll make that change. Thank you.
Okay.
Motion to accept council committee, city council minutes.
Second.
Motion from Councilmember Lundin, second from Councilmember Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Announcements. Parks and Recreation Board meeting Tuesday, March 25th, 2025 at 6 p.m. City Council meeting Tuesday, April 1st, 2025 at 7 p.m. Economic Development Authority meeting Tuesday, April 1st, 2025, immediately following the City Council meeting. Special primary election Tuesday, April 8th, 2025, from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. canvassing board meeting from Thursday, April 10th, 2025 at 6 PM. Are there any council committee reports? I do have one. The Chamber of Commerce State of the City presentation will be tomorrow. I'll be giving that presentation on the city, and that includes like plans, goals, things that we've done as a city over the last year. I know that's really well attended usually at the Chamber. I think the businesses like to hear what's going on in the community, so that's something I'm looking forward to. And then the school board meets this week as well, so I'll have an update at the next city council meeting on that.
I also went to the BMX board meeting. Not a whole lot, just they're setting up for the future races, and I think you're updating some of your sound equipment. Yep. So they did that, and that's about it.
And I did attend the 25th anniversary race. I was dropping some gates out there, and that was pretty awesome. They run a really good ship out there. I was impressed with how well organized they are, and it's all volunteers that you can tell are obviously motivated and involved, so that was great to see out there. If anybody's interested in an all year-round sport for their kids, right here in Isani, check it out, Rum River BMX. Any other committee reports? All right, we will move on to public hearings. J1, Annual MS4 Report.
Okay.
Josie, while she's setting this up, I do have a question. So what would happen if this is something that we didn't do? Is this a state requirement, and do they pay or reimburse for the time involved in this?
For the MS4 presentation,
For the MS4, all the reporting that we do, is that a state requirement, I assume?
yes, MS4 is a state program through the MPCA, and it is, you could call it an unfunded mandate. We are required to do it, given the size of our city.
Okay.
I'll actually say that in about 1 minute.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so the municipal separate storm sewer system permit is required through the MPCA. Started in 2007. The city of Isani became an MS4 city in 2016. It's when you become 5,000 people or more. And if you're on a large body of water that's impactful in the state, which in Minnesota really means all cities. The permit was reauthorized in 2021, and new best management practices, or BMPs, were implemented in 2022. And we were audited in 2022, which was my first time reporting on it, so that was a lot of fun. Which led to us updating many of our procedures and increased documentation that was required. And the city implements these through regulatory mechanisms, education and outreach, and environmental protection. And we are not, this is an unfunded mandate, as Josie mentioned. These are our partners. We work with Bolton and Menk, Isani Soil and Water Conservation, Anoka Soil and Water Conservation, Rum River Consultants, Cambridge. We partner with on a few things, and the MPCA and the DNR. So this year's annual report will be due June 30th, 2025, but it will be submitted through a new process whenever it is available. So we haven't done another report since 2023, just because we were waiting for this new system. We have all of our reporting documents in line and ready to go for when it goes live, but we've just been waiting to hear from them when that's available. This is required of us every year, and every year we are required to have this report given to you at a public hearing to announce illicit discharges that we found. And so in 2024, we had 2 discharges that were illicit found in the city of Isanti. And one was for a lot of leaves in one area discharging into one of our storm sewers, as well as the other was for a sump pump directly discharging into our street from a basement. We did send out 84 violation letters throughout the city, and most of those are related to new construction projects. So dirt in the street, street sweeping, things like that were required.
And that's pretty typical, correct, that 84 number?
Yeah, it really depends on how many new houses we have and how windy it is, how much rain we get. But yeah, it's pretty typical for us to send out. I mean, we're supposed to be sending out violation letters for everything, and so it's a typical number for us to have
Okay.
when we have a lot of construction. Okay, so the minimum control measures that we're required to follow through with are public education and outreach, public participation, the elimination of illicit discharges to the storm sewer system, which for 2 is a pretty good standard number. We'll likely never get to 0, just because there's always gonna be something happening. A lot of people don't know what those are, and that's where the public education and outreach come from. Construction site runoff controls, which is where we partner with Rum River as well as Bolton and Menk, as well as the post-construction runoff controls. Pollution prevention and municipal good housekeeping are also 2 things that we're required to do. And so, as part of our future work, we've been increasing public outreach and training by increasing social media and information available at city-held events. For instance, on Thursday, we'll be attending the 8th grade career day, and as part of that, we bring a stormwater table where we demonstrate what that looks like to 8th graders, as well as the 5th grade water day. We continue to implement and improve our enforcement response procedures through this soil and water, the SWIP, we call it. And that's being updated regularly, and the more of these illicit discharges or things that we're finding happen throughout the city, we're able to better respond. Sometimes they're pretty specific, unique situations, so we don't have a direct policy, but those procedures help us know what to do. And so with our partnership with Bolton and Mink, right now it's going to be Fairway Greens 4th edition, or 3rd edition, that should say. Parkbrook Apartments, Whiskey Apartments, Johnson Meadows Phase 2, which is coming forward here, and consultation if we have any major issues. Also, just to make sure that they are putting on their site plans, that they're going to be having the right minimum control measures in place, which is silt fence, all of that stuff that they have to do. Any questions? Okay. I tried hard, Steve.
And the cost that we use to fund that is through stormwater fees.
Yes, that is how it's
100%.
funded.
And I noticed that fund's sitting pretty good, so we should be good for a while.
Yes, yep, you're doing good.
All right. No questions? Thank you, Stephanie. So now we can move on to item K1. Oh, yeah. So I need to, I think this is my first time doing this. So we just have to call a public hearing, and if there's anybody that wants to speak on this matter, feel free to come forward and say your name and address for the record. All right, hearing nothing, we will close the public hearing. And do we need a motion to approve this, or?
Nope, that's all I needed was a public hearing to be held and to present that to you, so thank you.
Okay, sounds good.
Close the public hearing.
Didn't I? Okay. All right, so we'll move on to K1, resolution to considering interim financial services.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. With the passing of our finance director, we do have a vacancy for the finance director position. As you can imagine, this finance director position has many duties. There are many of them that I can absorb in the interim. There are some that can be delegated out to other staff. However, I do find that it's imperative in the best interest of the city of Isani to hire a consulting firm that can assist in some of the more detailed, intricate work that we do for the finances for the city. I have reached out to Abdo, and they have provided the interim financial services in the past. The last time was in 2016. And they have provided a proposal as what's included within the city packet. This is up to 10 hours of work per week, as directed by the city administrator, more or less, upon request of the city administrator. Services would start being provided as early as March 24th, pending approval this evening, and could go up until August 29th or as needed. We are hoping that we'll be able to get a finance director in here by July 1st. Should that not be possible, I wanted to make sure that we had everything solidified through the budgeting process. The person who'd be assisting would be on site for 4 hours at our request. There's an additional cost to be on site because we do have to pay mileage to come here. We'll be able to vet that out week after week to see if that's even necessary. There's a lot that can be done with giving remote access for this person. They'll assist with many tasks, including, as I mentioned, budget and CIP if needed. The cost for this is $3,900 per week, and it could fluctuate depending on more or less hours as requested.
So I did have a question on this. I see the $3,900 per week. Obviously, we have to have it, but that is for, you said up to 10 hours per week, so that's roughly $390 per hour. Have we, or can we put out a request for bid on something like this? Because I know a lot of business accountants are more around 100 to 150 an hour. Is that something that we can put a bid out? Maybe, you know, just to see if we can get a little bit better price?
We could. That is council's prerogative to put a request for proposal together. There'd have to be, I would say, a consulting firm that has experience that can vet those out, because I don't think that I would be the best person who could vet it out, that they are good with public financing before we hire them. There are some firms that I'm familiar with, if they did submit proposals, but there potentially could be some that I'm not aware of. And if you were going to recommend doing that, I would suggest, even though we don't have the RFP in front of you, is putting that through a proposal or through an approval this evening so we can get moving on it. We do have reporting that is required to be done, and we want to make sure that we don't miss any of those deadlines.
So it said, you had said up to 10 hours. In the cover page, it says up to 10 hours per week, additional if requested, but you had said additional or less if requested, but in here it just says additional. If, say, we approve this tonight to have them be our interim, and then all of a sudden we find a different company that would give us a better price, can we just knock them down to zero and pay them nothing? Or how would that work? I mean, would it be beneficial for us to sign them on now and then go out for bids so we're not, you know, without, or could you handle it in the meantime?
I believe that there is within the agreement, excuse me, I don't have it in front of me, of when there is, we can terminate the contract early. Severability. All terms and covenants contained within the agreement are severable in the event any provision of this agreement shall be held invalid by any court jurisdiction. This agreement shall be interpreted as such invalid terms. I don't see that there is a time frame. Typically, we see 30 days in here. I can clarify that. Oh, here it is, sorry. The client may terminate this agreement upon 30 days written notice. In the event the client determines in its sole discretion that it is not in the client's best interest to continue using contractor services. The client may terminate on 10 days written notice if the contractor fails to perform its obligations under this agreement. So
Okay.
30 days. So if we did enter into agreement now, we for sure would be using them for 30 days.
And at that point, an RFP is gonna take probably 30 days to go through all the process anyways, correct? I mean, by the time you get bids and you can verify each one, so
Say at minimum 30 days, because
Right.
we'd have to post it. We'd have to leave that open for a sufficient amount of time, which I would say a minimum of 2 weeks would be on the low side. And then it has to be approved by council after it's been vetted and at a council meeting.
okay. So there is a competitive advantage there potentially to, we could sign them on, but still try and get a lower bid. I mean, they might even come in with a lower bid in that RFP themselves if they're worried they're gonna lose the contract.
I don't think they're too worried about losing the contract. They're a pretty big company.
That's still money, but, yeah.
We're a small fish in a big sea right there with them, trust me. They do a lot for all over. Unfortunately, it's unfortunately the circumstances we're put in, and I think we need to move sooner than later on this, because we don't, lack of better words, we don't want to get caught with our pants down. And it's so much work that's been going on to get to where we're at. I say that we go ahead and get into the interim with them for right now, and if you feel that we have to get some better pricing, I don't think you're gonna find it. It's a little different than, a business is a little different than what cities do, so.
But I think it's worth a shot to see if we can get a better bid. If this is gonna, especially if it's gonna take us, I mean, it could take us a year to find somebody that we're comfortable with taking over that spot. So I think if we, you know, if we can save $10,000 a month or whatever, that could be a huge difference.
Well, it was my understanding, if I read correctly, it was either a memo or somewhere that you said that you were gonna try to take over as much of the finance as you possibly could. And I trust finance staying in-house as much as possible right now, because I hate to see Mike's model, because he has a very unique model compared to other finance directors, and I don't wanna see it completely redone and a new model put in place. In fact, whoever we train in or in the future, I'd like to see that same model continue.
And this interim services would be working hand in hand with myself. We would be using the same model, at least through all the interim services.
Okay?
We can evaluate at a different time when we hire a permanent finance director, but the mechanisms that we have in place and the way that you're used to seeing things presented, like budgeting and the CIP, will remain the same throughout this.
How long?
I did vet that out with Abdo when I talked to the head professional over there about using Excel, because as you know, the spreadsheets are in Excel. Some people can't work with Excel as much as some of the other actual more technical budgeting programs. And we are guaranteed to get somebody that is very well skilled in Excel. So that, I have vetted that out with the processes that we've currently and what you're used to and what Mike has already put into place. We will be following suit with this company.
And on a side question, our assistant finance person who's working with Mike, how long has she been on board for with Mike? I was curious, will she be able to help out our new finance director in the future and keep him focused on the direction Mike was in, or is it not that complicated?
I'd say it's more complicated. I'm not prepared to answer that question. Everyone's encouraged to apply, internal and external applicants, and the job is posted. I will say that our assistant finance director has been helping out immensely right now with, as I mentioned before, that a lot of the duties are not all on my shoulders. They're being divvied out to other staff members, and she is taking on quite a bit. But she also has a full-time job, and while, you know, this interim with Abdo is 10 hours, she's dedicated 10 hours. I'm trying to do at least 10 hours, but there's only so much you can spread so thin for so long.
Right. So how long has she been working with Mike?
I'd have to look in to see exactly what year she was hired.
Okay.
I don't have that off the tip of my head.
So it's been a long, like 5 years, 4 years? Okay, good. That's good to know.
Any other?
So, how many hours, looking at what you know you need to do in the budget here in the near future, how many hours do you think you're looking at? I mean, I guess you wouldn't have sent us this requirement if you didn't think you may use them all. Do you?
Correct. I'm requesting to have just 10 hours of a 40-hour full-time position, and I'm going to do my very best to make sure that I can take on the rest or delegate out to staff. It's not just budget and CIP stuff. There's quarterly finance reports, there's budgets, there's annual things that we have to submit to the state, sales tax and use reports. There's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that I do need assistance with.
I feel comfortable staying with the audit company that we've been using, and also wants to step up and fill in these 10 hours a week or so for now, but.
I will tell you, I did talk to Abdo, and the guy that we work with for the audit would have nothing to do with our fill-in services. So the person that would be filling in for us would be brand new to the iSandy system, because that was my first thought. Our auditor, the specific guy that does it, would be the perfect fit, but he actually can't. So.
Different division for separation of duties.
Yep, so I would guess I would like to make the motion that we approve this, but put out an RFP, and if there's a bid that comes in that's just wildly more cost-effective for us, that we consider it at that point.
I agree, and if staff is comfortable, or it has to go by bid.
But we could accept this now and then go out for bid, and if there's nothing that comes in, great, we already have it set up, we're losing nothing if we, agreed to appoint them right now, and then maybe we get a better bid. that's significantly cheaper.
We'll fine tune that bid to your requirements, like Excel type.
I will work on putting an RFP together, and that'll be on the April 1st city council meeting for approval.
Okay,
Do we need a motion on that?
I need you to have a motion to approve this agreement, to authorize us to enter into the ABDO interim services for now. And then I'll bring back the RFP in written form on the April 1st city council meeting.
Okay, I would make that
I'm the one
motion.
that made that motion.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll second it then. So motion from Councilmember Lundin, second from myself, all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0 on that. We will go to K2, resolution to consider approving the final plat for Johnson Meadows Phase 2.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The PUD and preliminary plat for the Johnson Meadows development was approved on March 19th, 2024 for the first phase, as well as the overall preliminary plat. Phase 1 of the development has now been completed, and Carrington Development is requesting approval of the final plat to construct the final 20 lots in this development. The engineer is requesting the right-of-way for Commerce Drive in the southeast corner be platted, which I know they're working on, as well as the temporary cul-de-sac on 7th Avenue will be recorded as a separate document outside of this final plat, which is what we require, so that we can take it off when it's complete. Otherwise, the development agreement will be brought forward at a future meeting. The developer is here if you'd like to ask any questions, but it is what you guys previously approved.
I make a motion to approve with Bolton Mink's recommendations.
Second. Motion from Councilmember Lundin, second from myself, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Is there anything that you guys would like to have pulled from the consent agenda or discussion on?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second,
Motion from Councilmember Lundin, second from Councilmember Heeman to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Any other communications or questions from anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn from Councilmember Lundin, second from Councilmember Holmgren. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned.
If we can,
Wow, is this thing hot?